live stream says live in 15 minutes. I have no idea why, because it was not, whatever. We're alive, so that's what matters. Okay, welcome everybody. So funny little side story before we start. Did you know it's World Giraffe Day? I did not. I didn't plan this to be somebody, some of you guys let me know, which is kind of a cool and really odd accident, because it's not like I draw giraffes that often. What are the chances? Kind of fun. Anyway, looks like everything is good. And there we go. So tonight I am going to be working on Inktense and MeWe. I've got a blue paper here that you can see. This is the smooth side. And this was my drawing. I left this on here because I wanted you to see what my actual drawing was. You've got a few options to get your drawing onto the paper. I don't want to draw directly on the Inktense and MeWe because you will see every eraser mark. I want my background to stay nice and clean. So even if you want to freehand, whether you want to freehand, you want to trace it directly from your computer monitor, which is what I did here to save time because it just takes a lot longer to freehand it, go ahead and do it on tracing paper. So let's say I want to draw something myself, but I know I'm going to do a lot of erasing. I'm going to use regular sketch paper. Draw it on that first, then trace it. So either way, you've got a tracing, and then use transfer paper. I used a white transfer paper. This one's Low Cornell. There is another brand, and I cannot remember who it is now, and it's driving me crazy because you guys have asked, whoops, wrong camera, multiple times. I don't remember what the alternative one is. But anyway, it's just whatever white transfer paper. And you use that, once you get your drawing, you're just gonna slide that under and take a little stylus and you just trace over everything. And now I've got my line work completely clean, no eraser marks, no mess. Right there. So it is the best way that you can get your clean lines. The other option, so I shouldn't say best because this other option is also just as good, is to use a digital projector. Any projector is okay. I like the digital one. It's so much more clear. Now the one that I have is by Artograph, I believe is who makes that one. They don't make the same one I have. They have a new one. I don't know how great it is. It's actually a lot less than the one I paid for, which is awesome because they are way overpriced. So those are another option. And it is something that you'll get enough use out of. And it's the same thing. Like let's say you wanted to draw something on your own. You can still use the projector to project that cleanly onto your canvas, onto your paper. So there we go. I am not wearing the right glasses. I think I can still see. I'm probably fine. It'll be fine. Just tell me if it looks bad. No, don't tell me if it looks bad. Okay. So we've got this. What else? The paper, it is a 5x7. You can bid on this over on my website. Starting bid is $55. This will come in a black matte. And just so you can see what that looks like, I haven't shipped them yet. I need to. This is the one from last week, and this is what it looks like in a matte. So that one actually probably doesn't show as well. So you can see the black matte there once it is matted. So the overall size will be an 8x10, just like this. It just pops into any standard 8x10 frame, and it is ready to go. I also need to get this shipped out. These will probably be going out tomorrow or the next day. We've got, it's all varnished and shiny. The palm trees, the beach, the summer beach from 2 weeks ago. So those are both ready to go now. So you will be getting notifications soon who won those ones, that they are on their way to you with the tracking information. What else? Anything else, or we can get started? I think we can get started. So I'm going to do my base layers on this with Pastels. And that is really just going to save me a lot of time because we've got time restraints on a live stream. But it'll give me just that base color. And then I'll do the colored pencils on top of that. So if you don't have Pastels, you can skip this and do it all with colored pencil. That's fine too. So let's grab some soft tools. Looks like I'm going to need to change my covers though. That is dirty. I should have done that before the live stream. But we wouldn't want me to be prepared. That was just weird people out. And all of the supplies that I'm using are linked in the video description, if I did my job. That's a big if. Okay, so on to the Pastels. Let's see. I am going to probably start with that cream color. So the way that I load these, I'm just going to take my soft tool. You can see I ripped the bottom of it, but that's okay. And mix my white, with a little bit of my burnt sienna. Actually, what color is that? Yep, burnt sienna. And I'm just mixing those red on the pan. And then coming over to the artwork, I'm just going to go ahead and block that in. Now notice that I'm not jumping straight to white. I'm going to save white for my brightest highlights. And I don't care if I do like right there. See how that got way too dark? I don't care. That really does not make a big difference. It doesn't have to be the exact shade going through. We can even that out after we block it in. And I don't care if it gets on the darker spots either. None of that really matters right now. And I'm also okay if the blue of my paper shows through. That actually makes my life a little bit easier because it gives me a bit of color without me having to actually do the effort. It's kind of a accidental detail or shading sort of thing. So these are all a bit darker than what I'm going to want that end result to be, but that lets me build with the white on top of it. Oh gosh, I'm making smudges. Hold on, I did not realize my hand was dirty when I did that. Let me grab an eraser really quick so I can remove that. Now, if you have, actually, hold on, let me grab this first. Gibson, I don't want to listen to you sit there and huff because there's a toy in your bed. Calm down. There, the toy's not in your bed. Relax. Okay. Oh, well, there we go. Kristen, thank you. Okay, say it quietly. And this will be good because Gibson's been over there huffing and having a little bit of a personal tantrum because Wade left a toy in the bed. So this will be a nice thing. Say it quietly. He knows. Look at him. He already knows. You want a super chat? And that's a yes. Thank you, Kristen, for the super chat. Okay. Back up. See, thank you. Very easy. That was not easy, Wade. You're a little bit too grabby with that. No, that's a pencil erase or shading on the floor. That's not a treat. Go lay down. Say thank you to Kristen and lay down. Good boys. Sort of. Lay down. You too. Thank you, Kristen. Okay. So what just happened here on the artwork, I had some pan pastel when I changed the cover from the last one. I had a little bit on my hand and I got some on there. This erases super easily. Now, the reason that it's important that I do this now and not wait is when I come back through and spray this with SpectraFix, with the fixative that I'll put on it in between layers, that would not erase very well. It might come up some, but not completely. So it is very important if you smudge your background, when you want your background to stay a definite color like this, it is so important that you get that erased before you spray. Okay. And yeah, the bed swap is complete. Okay. So again, just gonna load that up. And I'm filling in, just focusing on the light areas for now. And like here, I wasn't super careful, went outside the line a little bit, same thing. Come back with that eraser and clean it up. Now, don't use your hand to wipe away the shavings. You want to use, ideally, do I have one over here? A drafting brush, draft something. There it is. I knew I saw this recently. Use something like that to wipe your shavings away, not your hand. You just make things worse with your hands. Plus, we want to keep our hands off the work. People's juice, not archival. We don't want the oils from our skin, no matter how well you've washed your hands. We want to keep that off as much as possible. Now, that's not to say I don't occasionally use my pinky to blend things out. Sometimes it's just needed. But if I can avoid it, there's no reason for my hand to be used. I'm not benefiting anything by having my hands touch this at that point. Now, this is actually easier if you turn your work as you go, or if you're wearing the proper glasses and you can actually see what you're doing. Actually, I probably do. Oh, they're right here. Oh, my life just improved significantly. Oh, hey, look, I can see. Huh. Go figure. Okay, back to work. With vision. Whoa, that is way better. Okay, now I'm going to leave this because this is going to, the white parts here are really in shadow. They're a darker blue, so we're not going to do that yet. Just a little bit more with the light areas. You can see how there's parts of this have the blue. Oh, that camera is skipping horribly. I apologize. But there are parts of this with the blue showing through. Good, leave it. That just easy shading. Okay. Now we've got this area that's really light, but it's also mostly blue. So I'm going to go with, I'm going to use phthalo blue and gray. Let's see if that's too blue. I usually will go a little bit more. Oh, that's perfect. I like my blues for the shadows to be really, on giraffes, I really like pulling out the blues and the purples. I think it looks so pretty up against the oranges in the coat. So again, that phthalo blue and gray. And this has a really strong line where the shadow is. Leave it strong. That may feel scary at the time, but it will look way better in the end if you leave it that strong. Now I do need to come back. Do I not have? I don't. I thought I had another triangle one. Maybe not. Oh, I do. Yay. I'm going to get a little bit of black. Actually, I'm going to mix purple in with that too. We've got this deeper shadow right in here on the inside of the ear. And we've also got some of that over here and more of the blue and gray for the shadow of this ear. Don't be afraid to really pull that color out. I usually, like I said, in giraffes, I like to make it way more extreme. I'm going to pull more purple into that too. I like it to be even more extreme. It just makes it stand out so much by oversaturating that some. Okay, well, I've got this one out. We'll go ahead and use the raw sienna and burnt sienna, or red, I think that's red oxide, or red iron oxide. I'll throw some purple in there too. Just, the point is that it's darker. We've got a shadow that comes right up the side there. Just look at your reference photo. Your reference photo has the information you need for this. So if you start looking at that and feeling lost, like I don't know what to do next, pick any spot that you see on your reference photo and just copy what that has. I'm not going to do the eye with a pan. Maybe. I'm going to regret this. Yeah, that's all I'm going to do on that eye because that is going to get crazy really fast. Let's take a small brush and kind of smudge that out. Too small. Okay. I need to remember next time I use that brush to clean it because now it has pan pastel on it. Totally not going to remember. Okay. Let's go ahead, and I can use the same brush. I don't even have to clean it. This is the one that I used for the cream tones. I'm going to go ahead and start pulling in that burnt sienna. That has too much black mixed in it. Let's wipe some of that off a little bit more. Reload that. There we go. Much better. The color is actually fairly accurate tonight. That's unusual. A Giraffe Day miracle. If you have any questions, leave them now. I'll be answering those at the end of the lesson. So if it feels like I'm ignoring you, I am, but only temporarily. Now notice that these areas, they're not super clean. I mean, I'm trying to keep them clean as much as possible, but they're not perfect. Doesn't matter. That's fine. The light colors will go on top of this really well. So don't worry about it being too dark right now. Load that again with the purple and blue and gray. We've got that definite shadow along the side of the face here. And then back to the raw sienna. And if you're doing a giraffe, something like this, if your spots aren't exactly the same, does not matter. Unless it's like a super famous giraffe and everyone knows exactly what that looks like, no one is ever going, even then, people aren't going to notice. So this is not a case where I'm worried if they're perfect. If I was doing a pet portrait, then I'm going to worry that it's exactly like that animal. The owner will know if you get those spots wrong, but on something like this, it's no big deal. Not something I'm concerning myself with at all, as you can tell. And I think that's, oh no, almost good enough. And we can almost switch over to colored pencil. I will spray this first with my Spectrafix. Let's get the inside of the ears a bit darker. Okay, that's probably good enough. The rest I think can be done with colored pencil. Soften that line there a little bit. Don't want anything, oh, maybe a little bit more. Let's grab some purple. I'm going to pull a little bit of the purple and blue just under the shadow here, right down the front of the neck. Okay, so now where is my Spectrafix? This is, I have no idea. Oh, here it is. So Spectrafix, I put, tighten the thing on my chair so it doesn't keep making noise. Spectrafix, I put in a fine mist sprayer because if you spray straight out of the bottle that it comes in, you get really heavy droplets. With this, they're not as prone to that. I mean, you get some, but it's not real crazy. And I'm just lightly going to mist over that. And then I'm going to use the hairdryer to dry it just to speed things along. Okay, now I'm going to put all my pan pastel stuff away. So give me just a second. Actually, while I do this, we will play.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I see all your unused art supplies over there. Oh my god, those brushes aren't even opened yet. Tragic. You keep buying new fancy materials, but you don't use them because you don't want to waste them. Stop making your art supplies sad. Sign up for art lessons for as little as $4 a month. There are over 300 painting and drawing lessons available when you sign up, and new ones every week. Patreon.com/Lachri.
So the camera for the palette cam won't really be useful because it is going to be blocked completely now by my pencils. So let's see, what is the best way to not have that making weird. I guess that kind of works. Okay. Now, let's see. What are we going to start with? Hope that video is still playing. There we go. Glassine. Let's start with glassine. Do I not have any out here? I may need to grab another piece. So glassine is what I put under my hand so that I can rest my hand on the artwork without smudging or getting the oils of my skin on it. But here we go. Oh, I need new tape though. That tape is not sticky anymore. Just going to take a couple pieces of tape. Guess I can rip the old ones off. Oops. My coordination is just not at its peak here. Okay, I'm going to put this on there and cover so I can just focus on that ear first. The easiest thing is just to pick one little area and really zone in on that. So we're going to start with the ear. I'm going to pull out a little bit of polychromos white. A little bit. No, I'm going to pull out the whole pencil. Oh, we have, oh, here. That can't, what happened to your camera? Hold on. Did I bump that? There we go. Do you boys want a super chat? Say thank you, Kelsey. Kelsey gives you a super chat. Don't nudge me. That is rude, sir. Yeah, no being pushy. Easy. Or you're just going to take it. Okay, well, I guess that's just how that's going to go. Say thank you to Kelsey. That's all. No puppy eyes. Go lay down. Go lay down. Bed. Go to bed. Slowest race dogs ever. I'll just slowly mosey on over. Gibson. I think there's still a toy in this bed and I hates it. Weird boy. Okay, thank you, Kelsey. Okay, so we've got black, we've got white. I'm gonna grab a couple of colors in here. This should work. This is burnt ochre. These are my polychromos because they're gonna be easier to get detail. I might grab some, no, I'm definitely gonna need some Derwent Lightfast because they have my favorite purples. Anytime I'm using like a red oxide, an orange, anything like that, most of my shadows, purple. Like they're just such good colors for that. So we've got purple, I've got nightshade. What else do I have in here? Violet is usually good. So we'll grab those. Is that enough? I feel like I need a burnt sienna. Yeah, definitely. Oh, maybe I could put mortem. We know how I like that color. That probably is better. Okay. Yeah, I have no idea why they swap beds like that. So let me sharpen these. And that is a really dull sharpener. So if you ever, I don't know if you can see, as I'm sharpening this, it's sticking. Like, see how it just keeps, I turn it and it just kind of stops. That sharpener is horribly dull. Actually, I think it got sprayed a few too many times with Spectrafix. I can probably clean it. Your sharpener should just flow smoothly. It shouldn't be sticking. So there we go. That is a much better sharpener. It is in a much better condition. I'm just going to sharpen all these really quick. By really quick, I mean not really quick. Whoa, broke the tip off of polychromos. That's unusual. Don't see that every day. Okay, so we've got some highlights in here. We've got that definite highlight right in there. And then we're going to switch over to Caput Mortem. So we move on to our shadow. I'm going to define the top of the ear. So this is where we start really cleaning things up. I'm going to go back and forth. No, I think that's going to be too light. We'll just keep Kaput for this. Now you can use your odorless mineral spirits if you need to, if you've already sprayed it with Spectrafix. I'm going to avoid doing that here just for the sake of time. I don't think it'll need it anyway with having put the polychroma or the pan pastels underneath. So I'm going to highlight right along the edge of that ear. The light is catching. I'm just using my white for that. I'm going to pull this out a lot brighter and then pull some shading right in between there. That's the outer portion of the ear. It's going to put mortem is great for the shading colors I need in here. I'm going to switch over to my purples. This is going to have a bit of a sketchy look for a lot of this. My neighbor's dogs are barking. That's unusual. It's not unusual at all. And we're going to come right through here. And that tip is breaking as well. That was broken inside. I wonder, that's unusual too. The Derwent Light Fast, I usually don't have an issue with those breaking. I really don't have an issue with any of these breaking, so it's kind of unusual when that happens. You know what may have done it? That crappy sharpener I keep using. It's causing friction where it shouldn't be, so that would actually make sense. There we go. Now I'm going to take the black for that deeper shadow and define that a bit more. Okay, now I'm going to leave that alone. I may come back and do a few more details later. We'll see, but for now that's okay. I'm going to come up and do his horns. I'm just picking one small area and working my way around. Now I think their dogs are trying to murder each other over there. They are definitely fighting. I don't know if you guys can hear that on the microphone. Okay. So back up here. I'm going to start with some of the highlights. Actually, I want to grab a little bit of a light blue, like an ultramarine. That should work. I'm going with the polychromos because I don't want it that opaque. If I go, I lied. I think I need a more opaque than that. But if I go with something that has a higher wax content, it's going to be more opaque. And so it may be a bit too much. But apparently, I need that here. Let's try the mid ultramarine. Yeah, that's showing up a bit better for the highlight. This is very similar to the color of the paper, which works really well. Now I can come on top. I'm going to use first my nightshade. Let's get these darker bits in. Now look how much lighter my light areas look. So you will often have where it feels like your lights aren't light enough, and it's simply that your darks aren't dark enough. And I apologize, that camera is really sticking. I don't know why it does that. It's usually the most important camera that decides to do it. Let me try resetting that and see if, oh, they're not horns? Yeah, I'm never going to remember that. Let me see if I can reset this. Where is I lost my mouse. Apparently. Oh. Which one's which? You aren't working. Why aren't you working? Don't make me go change your battery. There we go. I'm going to see if I can reset that camera. If it will work better. Okay, I think that, yeah, it's behaving a little bit better. Let's do that. Okay. And with a lot of the different words, like that, same thing with octopuses. I don't even know what half the parts on an octopus are called. Any of you who've watched my videos know that. we're lucky I remember that it's called We're lucky I remember my name. Like that's just a problem for me. So words are hard. But please leave in the comments anytime you do hear me use the wrong term, absolutely correct me so people who can remember can see your comment. And I'm pushing pretty hard here, so I'm getting that burnishing look, and it looks a little bit darker on the video than what it does in person. But I know I don't need a lot of layers here, so I don't have to worry about if you burnish, if you push hard, you damage the tooth of the paper, so you can't get a lot of layers on top of that. But here, I'm not putting that many layers, so it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to make sure that my pencil strokes are going about the direction of the fur. It is called fur, right? Did I get that part right at least? I'm going to put mortem right over that. And just transitioning between that purple there and it looks like black, but it's actually nightshade. So it's going to have a lot more depth than just using black would have had. Just creating that texture for the fur. And that one loops around. The variation in the direction of the fur is really important too. What a lot of people do and why the fur looks unnatural, it's not an issue of not putting enough detail, it's the detail in the wrong place, going the wrong direction. Make sure you watch that shift, that it constantly changes direction. We've got a shadow here, there's that little hump guy there. It's apparently not a horn. Another hump guy there. Okay, I'm going to skip. I'm going to leave that for right now. I'm going to come down and work on the eye. I always do this. I jump around like that. But this is going to be my focus for just a moment here. And I'm going to work my way out from that. We've got our little eyelashes. It looks like the women with all their fake lashes lately. I said it. You heard me. I'm not sorry. Okay, and we've got that definite bright area here over his eye. I'm going to grab a more opaque white too, because some of this I do want a bit brighter. So I want to either go with my Caran d'Ache Luminance or my Derwent Drawing, whichever one looks like it'll be, or not Derwent Drawing, Derwent Lightfast. Let me sharpen that. And that's going to stick a bit better because it's got more wax in it, so it just ends up being a bit more opaque. We've got some spots I've missed in here. Oh, I never did find a burnt sienna. Let me grab that. Here we go. Sharpen that. So we've got a few definite spots up here. You can just watch the direction of that fur. And those ridiculous lashes. A few going down. And then we've got white right along that outer edge of the eye. It's not really the eye, it's part of the outside of his face showing. Let's pull a little highlight on that eye too. There we go. And moving down, Get a little bit of shading here. And we're going to switch back to the white. And if I need something super bright, then I'll switch over to the Derwent Lightfast. Going to do that now. I want to really get that great contrast. But I'm not covering everything. Some of what the Pan Pastels already had, that is stained too. Like, it doesn't need to be a solid white. You can see areas in here where I start, you can kind of see like right there, where I start getting both of those. And I've got the mid-range and the really bright white. Got his little eyebrow wrinkles. And back to burnt sienna. I need to get some pencil extenders for these guys. They're getting pretty short. Clean up a little bit by that eye. And his ridiculous lashes. Not that really ridiculous on a giraffe, though. They just look weird on a human. Now, while I do use the black, I don't want to jump to that for every area where I need something to be darker. If I can get something darker with a purple or a magenta, that's usually going to be a better way to go. Now here's another area. As I fill in these spots, I'm not trying to make them solid either. You've got areas that are a lot lighter and a lot darker. Get that variation. And watch how the spots will curve. Like this area of his face completely curves this way. So we want to make sure that when we come back and get a highlight in there, it helps give you that more three-dimensional look. And back to the white. Here I'm not really worrying about the direction of the fur. This is just a bit more solidly filled in. Watch how the curve, like here, how it curves, and then it sticks back out this direction. I mean, all of these spots, if you paint them or draw them in very flat, I mean, it makes them look flat. These are all changing shape based on the underlying bone and muscular structure. So at the same time that I say the spots don't need to be exact, I do want you to watch the way that they curve. Where is the highlight and where is the shadow? That's another thing I often see people do, which is definitely a mistake when you're putting in your shadows and highlights. I definitely recommend hype them up, make them more extreme than what the reference photo has. That normally will look better. But what you don't want to do is just put random shadows and highlights anywhere, because where those highlights are, they're there because of that underlying bone and muscular structure. So when you're trying to make that look more accurate, it is important to make sure you're hitting those areas correctly. The shape of the spot, not as big of a deal, but where are those shadows and highlights? And been pushing pretty hard with that pencil at that point. I'm definitely missing some spots on that neck. Let's add some of those in. And the outer edges of these are typically going to be a bit darker than the inside of the spot. You can see it doesn't really matter if I want to work on the spots first or the outer area with the white. You can work back and forth. So like right here, we've got this shadow on the neck. That's just because of how his muscle structure is. Definitely want to capture that. I'm going to switch over to Caput Mortem for these darker spots. And actually, a lot of these will get filled in with, what is that noise I'm hearing? Please don't be my computer on fire. Hold on one second. Is there like a fly stuck in here? There is a very weird sound. Huh. I don't know what that was. That was a weird, concerning noise. So we've got this one here, and then we've got another one here. These are pretty dark. I'm going to do it with the Caput Mortem. I'm going to come through with the burnt sienna on top of that. Again, I'm just going to burnish. Now let's come through with the white. This, I don't really, again, it's such short fur, and with the white, you really don't see the individual fur marks, so I don't need to watch that real closely like I did up in this area. The fur's longer here, super short, so that's not a concern. I've got a highlight right here, and it just connects right up there, so I'm just going to go right over both of those, and a little bit inside here. Okay, and then I'm going to use, let's start with raw sienna, or not raw sienna, burnt sienna. His mane. Is it a mane? Did I get that wrong? His mohawk. And this is another area. Notice that the lines are slightly curved. They're not just perfectly straight. Usually things in nature are not going to be super, super straight. It ends up looking kind of weird if they are. Super straight is going to be more like a man-made, a building, a fence, that sort of thing. A little bit sparse in there. Let's fill that out. You get some Rogaine. Let's thicken that up. Now I want to do the highlights on top of that. Wade, stop. I know it's you. He's like, dang it, how does she always know? So there's some highlights. Let's get some darker shadows using the Caput Mortem right at the base there. I'm going to pull some of that Caput Mortem into a few of these spots as well. So get some shading. He's coming out really good already. I'm super happy with him. Long project, longer than usual for the live streams, but he's coming out good. Okay. I'm going to get some brighter highlights by using the white Derwent Drawing. This really shows you the difference between, I keep saying Derwent Drawing, Derwent Lightfast, the difference between the Derwent Lightfast opacity white and the Polychromos. The Polychromos works, it just doesn't get this white. So it just depends on what you're going for, which pencil you want to use for that. So for my brighter whites that I'm burnishing against, I'm pushing pretty hard. I go over the spots too to lighten those up. That's a little too light. Let's go back over that just a bit. I got a little crazy. Okay. Slide this over to the side now. Looks like I've got a little bit of a smudge in here. Erase that. Okay, good. It is the mane. I feel like being ridiculous and asking if everything's everything now. Is this the ear? Did I get that one right? Let's get that white right around the edge. And I have to still come back and do the whole face, the rest of the face, but we'll start with this. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Let that high contrast on that shadow, that definite ear shadow, leave that in there. I'm going to use some of the blue in the center. This is the mid ultramarine blue. And I'm going to go over to my purples. Actually, where's my kaput mortem? Let's define some stuff in here. We've got, you need to curve down. And I'm going to use purple right along that shadowed edge. And right along this edge. And I'm going to switch over to the kaput mortem for the inner shadow here. You may be thinking, well, I don't have that color. What do I use instead? Anything close. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to use the exact colors. The thing that we're concerned about here are our values. Are our darks dark enough? Are lights light enough? That's what's going to make a difference. Also, Aline said, enjoy, boys, even though you made a mess of your toys. Oh my gosh. Those of you over on our Patreon Discord saw this morning, Wade. It wasn't Gibson. Gibson can't be blamed for this. It was definitely the bad cow last night. He had a party with his toys. He just kept pulling toy after toy, and there was a trail. You could tell everywhere he went. He was just leaving toys all over. So I posted that video over on the Discord. You can see that if you're over there. Okay. You boys want a super chat? Yeah? Say thank you, Aline. Okay. You got cookies over here. You want a super chat cookie? Does this look very tasty to you? I definitely have to get more this week. We are running low. Oh, when you can see the whites of Gibson, Wade does puppy eyes really well, really well. Gibson does not. His whites of his eyes are showing so big right now, just very good. Oh, those are good boys. So tasty. Say thank you. Don't choke on it. Say, well, don't pet me while I'm swallowing. It's your fault, huh? Sorry. Okay, go lay down. Say thank you and go lay down. Thank you again. Missing one. There we go. Oh, we got to stretch first. Gibson, lay down. All the way. Oh my gosh. You're being ridiculous. There we go. Thank you again. Okay. And that one just bought the new bag of treats. I actually do spend their super chats on them. My brain says, you donated to them. They have to get the reward. Okay, back to work. So really watch where those shadows are. Like I said, it doesn't matter so much that the color is perfect. Are your values? Are your darks dark enough? Your lights light enough? That's really what we want to watch for. And I'm going to do the little tufts of hair just by putting the dark going back in between. Let's pull the definite dark out here. Using the blue to get some of these lighter areas back in versus white, because the white would be too bright there, being that this is in shadow. That ultramarine blue is a much better choice. Same thing for some of these little wisps of fur. Now I want that to be even more of a stark contrast. Right along this edge, I'm going to take my violet, which is just a dark purple. It's like a purple dioxazine. Get that edge, and I'm going to pull that down just a bit, and then I'm going to burnish over it with my ultramarine so that it won't be that bright, but it'll also, I definitely want this a bit darker than the rest of that that's in there. So I'm going to push pretty hard. We're going to burnish that. When you burnish, we often talk about don't burnish, it makes it so you can't get as many layers. Yeah, but if you do it at the right time, burnishing is a great technique. It gives you that very painterly look that you also can get with using odorless mineral spirits without the dry time of the odorless mineral spirits. So you just want it, burnishing is fine as long as you save it to where you know it's getting into your last layers. I'm going to use that blue to blend that again by burnishing, so I'm pushing pretty hard. I've actually got a little bit of a weird line over here I've got to fix. This comes down that way. So now I'm going to actually use my white to lighten some of that. There we go. And then the white again, this is the Derwent Lightfast, so it's more opaque. A little bit more in there. Whoopsie, now that was too white, so I can go on top of that again with the blue. Just tone that down a little bit. There we go. And when you're zoomed in this close, you often, it looks wrong. It's like, oh, that's too much contrast. But when you look at it as a whole, you back away, then it all comes together. So trust your reference photo. Copy what you see there. Okay, now on to the rest of his face. So let's start with this really dark, actually, let's start with his eye. I'm using Nightshade here. It looks just as dark as black. Those lashes. And then I'm going to take Kaput Mortem right around the edge of this eye where the color is. A lot of this is going to be blue and purple in here. Okay, let's get the spots I'm going to mostly do with the Kaput Mortem for now, and then I'll come back through with purple over the darker areas. Actually, purple might be easier. Let me grab you. Yeah, that'll be better for the dark areas first. Let's map those out. This purple's just a really dark magenta. If I named this, it would be magenta. But then there are like, any reddish purple color, I call magenta. So there would be a lot of magentas in every set. I guess it could get confusing. We've got his eyebrow wrinkles. And a definite highlight right along this edge. I'm going to use for now my polychromos white so it's not too opaque, but I definitely need to lighten this up. Now, I don't know if you can tell from this angle, but one of the things I do constantly as I'm working, constantly squinting at it. And it's not just because I'm blind. It's because I'm trying to look at what, it shows me my highlights and my shadows without focusing on the details. So it really lets me know if something is just completely standing out that shouldn't. Because sometimes we get caught, when we look this close at something, we're caught up on the details. We're noticing the little details. But when you squint at it, you don't see those details anymore. You're seeing, it's the same as looking at it from across the room. You see everything as a whole a lot better. but it's something that I do continuously as I'm working. You don't even realize you're doing it at that, like when you get to where you've done it so many times. I'm going to push pretty hard here on that nostril. Just doing that with purple. And then here's another example. Is purple the right color to do that nostril with? Doesn't matter. Is it dark enough? That's what matters right now. That makes a way bigger deal. Now the difference is where I've got a highlight on this side because it's in shadow, I'll use the light blue, and then on the other side I would switch over to the white. I'm going to use that same purple, start building up where we've got these little dips in his snoot. I know that's a proper term. You're not going to catch me on that one. It is a snoot. I've got to start creating the shape of these nostrils here. And this is another area where the fur is super short. Don't try to paint, especially when you're working this small. We're not going to focus on getting every little strand of fur. Now let's say you're doing a huge 30 by 40 inch piece. You're going to focus on every strand of fur. This wouldn't look right. And even then you don't need to. I mean, it just depends on the style you're going for. But on something this size, we're really focusing on where our lights and darks. That's what's going to make a difference. Now here, the fur gets a little longer. So we'll get the hint of some of the fur, the direction of the fur. The direction of the fur. I can talk, really. I can't. That was a dirty lie. So we've got to start building these shadows. We've got a definite shadow that just kind of comes down right down here, mostly down to the eye. And then this is a pretty harsh shape. I'm going to switch over to the violet. Get more of a purple in there, right along that edge. And we've got a shadow on the knot horn. And I also need to get a better transition. Like right now we've got this straight line. We don't really need that straight of a line there. Let's break that up by pulling a few bits of fur in here. I'll also pull a little bit of blue right along that edge. That gives me a really good transition. Okay, let's get some more highlights. And I'll pull blue over some of these highlights too. And before we finish this up, just a quick reminder, if you are interested in more lessons, I have over 300 available over on Patreon, patreon.com/Lachri. Right now, you can still sign up for as little as $4 a month. In a couple of months, I am going to be upping that by $1 or $2 per tier, depending on the tier. So if you sign up now, or if you're already signed up, you're locked in at the rate you currently signed up as long as you're signed up at that rate. If you were to cancel and come back, then it would default you to the new rates. So if you are looking, if you've been considering and you want to get in at that lower rate, do it now, because in a month and a half, 2 months, something like that, I've got to actually set it up. But I'm going to have to upgrade that because I have not raised my prices since I set it up in 2014. So it is time. Inflation is a killer, and I have to pay my bills, and it's getting to be a challenge. So that is definitely going to be happening soon. But if you are already a member, you will be grandfathered in at the same, your current price will not change. It's just that you wouldn't be able to sign in at that price. So little thing, and there are over 300 lessons available. If you go to lachri.com, you can look at the student video library and see everything in multiple mediums that I have available. So much content, new content every week. Sometimes I'm late, but I make up for it. So head over lachri.com or patreon.com/lachri. Back to the art. No, Patreon is actually not for US residents only. It's for everywhere. I mean, if you're able to watch YouTube, it should be legal anywhere where you're at. So that makes it sound like I have illegal content. I just don't know what everybody's laws are. But no, it is available for everybody. Even the higher tiers where you get cards, mini prints, or stickers, or whatever tier you choose, you still get your rewards sent to you on those tiers. Okay. Back to the highlights. So I'm starting again with my polychromos because it's not as opaque. And this is a darker area. And I'm just going to lightly go over all of this. Same thing where I want to highlight over here. I'm just not pushing super hard. Here though, the light is catching on this little nostril. We're going to push harder there. Giraffe lips. And he's got his little whiskers. Going to use the nightshade for that. Make sure that's nice and sharpened though. Also, if you do sign up to Patreon, make sure to check that there's a Discord link. Click that, you can join our chat, and we chat about everything, a lot with our pets, art tips, if somebody needed help from someone, there's other artists in there that can give you advice. So we've been having fun. Lots of rambling about just random stuff too. So it's just fun. Okay. So we've got our little whiskers, just some little short guys. Watch the direction of these. And don't go overboard. We don't want to make it look like the current style of ladies' ridiculous eyebrows. Or not eyebrows, those two. Eyelashes. Some little whiskers. More shading over here. Now this is the stage where most everything's in, so we start correcting values like this. There's something weird going up here we definitely need to correct. So let's get some detailing in there. Obviously missing a few spots. And I need to pull more of the shadows down farther and then come back on top with the blue for the highlights of some of this. Let's switch over to the purple, which is really magenta as far as I'm concerned. I feel like I should write to Derwent and complain. Oh, well, I'd have to write to every company because lots of companies call magenta purple. And it breaks my brain. Got some missing spots in there. Okay, that looks like too straight of a line. Even though there is a shadow coming out, I need to break that up. That is just a hot mess. I mean, I was planning to come through with highlights, but that was a bit extreme even for my plan. There we go. Much better. Using the white just for a few highlights in there. This is always the funnest part to me on a piece, because this is where everything starts really coming together. It doesn't look like a lot is happening, but it starts just bringing everything together with these little details, little correction in shading, corrections, multiple. Definitely need some more highlights in here. These spots need to be a bit brighter. See, a lot of this, I'm just blending with the white. If I don't push too hard, the white works as a really good blender. You could also use a colorless blender too. Actually, that's not a bad idea. The problem with that is figuring out where I put mine. Huh. I know I have them, actually. Did I put them with the Caran d'Ache? Yes. So let's try with a Caran d'Ache. They have, this one is their full blender bright. And so this is basically just the unpigmented colored pencil. So you can burnish. Oh, it looks good. Oh my gosh. Oh, that gave me goosebumps. I'm a sad, sad person. Yes, that is what gives me goosebumps. But oh, that's blending so pretty. I don't always like the colorless blenders. It's actually like, I hate to say it, but I like Prismacolor's colorless blender is actually pretty good. But I don't burnish enough that, like, I would normally just blend with OMS. I'm just trying to avoid it because the whole dry time and all that. But oh, this is gorgeous on this paper. It looks like somebody just made it into our Patreon Discord channel. That's what that notification was. I'm just going over all of this, and I'm getting rid of a lot of the grainy, gritty look, which I don't hate on this because I'm going for a more sketchy look, but oh, this is just giving me such pretty tone. Ooh, we've got to get a lot of purple down that neck. That is something I'm definitely missing still. So now that that's in, let's come on there. This is actually the violet that I'm calling purple. We'll come back through with some purple too that I call magenta, that they call purple. So confusing. Why you gotta confuse me with your colors? So there's the more magenta color right on the edge there. Pull more of that. Actually, yeah, let's do more of the purple right along that. And I used to, when I first started with colored pencils, everything was done with burnishing and the colorless blender. The reason that I don't do it more, I actually think that it produces beautiful, obviously, it produces great results. The reason that I don't do it more is it's harder on my hands. You have to push a lot harder. I have arthritis in my hands. I have since I was a teenager, so that is a problem for me. That's why I typically will go with the odorless mineral spirits. But let's say you're traveling, you're working in a sketchbook, these colorless blenders, I would definitely pick some up. This one is the Caran d'Ache. Derwent has some. I don't love the Derwent ones very much. They're okay. They're usable. But see, it depends on the color you're using in the paper, because you switch papers and I suddenly hate this. So that makes a difference too. But I would definitely recommend giving them a try. They make the ones that come in a marker form. I know Prismacolor used to make one. I think some other ones do. It's like an alcohol-based marker for blending. I don't recommend those. They're horribly expensive and they do not last long. You are not going to get very much blending done with one of those markers. It is so overpriced for what you would get with like just using odorless mineral spirits, like Gamsol or Mona Lisa odorless, those, it just doesn't make any sense financially to use those markers. They're so expensive. But the colorless blenders, those ones are not as expensive. And if you are traveling and you want something that you can just blend little areas really quick, if you're okay with burnishing that area of your piece, then these are a great way to go. I'm really happy with the results I'm getting with that. Okay. I just turned into an advertisement for colorless blenders. Random. Random only because I don't use them that often. Blend that. This works better. I've used the Caran d'Ache one before and it was okay. I wasn't super impressed with it. I'm liking it. I don't know if it's the Canson Me 10s or the fact that I've got so much of the Derwent Light Fast on here, but it is really working better than I remember it being in the past. Or maybe it's that I've got pan pastels under it. It might just really like the pan pastels. That is a possibility. Let's get some more burnt sienna. Let's get some more rich colors in here. Darken the snoot. As always, I reserve the right tomorrow with fresh eyes to come and make a few minor details if needed. It may not need it. A lot of times it doesn't. A lot of times I come in with fresh eyes and I love it even more than I did the night before. But sometimes when you're sitting here for so long, your eyes are not getting a break. Then you may just notice something the next day. Go to mat it and then see, ooh, that needs adjustments. Okay. Let me see if that gets me the highlights I want. Kinda. Yeah, actually it does. So I'm using my ultramarine, my mid ultramarine to get some highlights here. And this color is working so well because it is so similar to the color of the paper. So I'm really liking those results. Almost done. Let's see. I've got some spots that are a little missing. So we have you. You need to come up further. And then there was another one that is just, apparently I decided not to draw. Let's throw you in there. And then this is the last thing that I really want to do is make sure I've got some variation along the edges of these spots so that the spots aren't just one color. Get that in there. Yeah, I'm really happy with him. He came out really cute. Define that a little bit more by pulling some nightshade, and I'm just going to pull that up to separate the ear from the head a bit. And then I'm going to go back to that colorless blender that I'm currently in love with. My gosh, this is working amazingly well. Do they still sell these? If anyone can look up and see if like on Amazon or Blick, if they've got it's called the Full Blender Bright. I don't know if they changed it. They may have made it or renamed it or done something like that because I bought these years ago. But man, this is working well, which means they probably changed it. There we go. So the last thing I need to do is sign this. Well, besides tomorrow coming back and looking at it with fresh eyes. But yeah, I can already see a few things like, no, not you. Let's use Kaput Mortem. Just a little bit right in there. It's always minor things. Like you wouldn't even notice that much. It's just me being picky before I mat it, wanting everything perfect. I don't like this line is standing out too much. Let's tone you down a bit. That's better. Okay, when I sign it, I use my scrap mat. Your mat, whoever wins this, your mat will be black, but I'm gonna use the white one because it's already dirty and I just use it to figure out where the signature goes. So he'll be positioned about like that. And I don't want the signature right under his snoot. I think that that draws weird attention away from him, so I'm going to sign right over here. You want to remember with your signature, you want to be able to see it. I know some people will sign the back of the canvas. No, sign the artwork, but make sure it's not such a focal point. Like you can put your signature in a way that it completely draws attention to the wrong area or draws the viewer off the canvas. You don't want that. I mean, there's sometimes when I do marine life where it's above and underwater, I'll sign right at the water line, works really well. So you can sign in different locations of the painting, but make sure it's not distracting, because can you imagine the signature right like he's nomming on the signature, I guess. I don't know. I guess I could have drawn grass blades coming out of it. But watch for that. The other reason that I held the mat up is because if I didn't, I probably would have signed down here. Then when the mat got put on, it would have cut that off. So those are things that you just want to keep in mind. But yeah, there is our finished giraffe, and he actually, the color is very, very accurate tonight. You don't hear me say that often. I'm really happy. Well, maybe not totally. This is a bit more purple than blue in some of the shadows, so I'll have better photos of it next week, or when I edit this. But yeah, he came out great. I am super happy with this guy. Okay, so before we move on, let's do this. Without treats, these puppies are so sad. Your Patreon pledge of only $4 or more gives them cookies of happiness. Act now and the bad cow gets a treat too. Oh, and you also get over 300 art lessons and a new one every single week, plus other rewards. Sign up at patreon.com/Lachri. Almost played that again. Okay, let me get some of this stuff out of the way, because that makes editing these videos down a little bit more of a pain when everything is completely in the way. We'll just move these back into place. Oh, and we have Fly Me to the Moon. Thank you so much. Say it quietly. Thank you so. Oh, Gibson already knows. Look at him. I know it. I know it's coming. You want a super chat? He's like, I do. I think I would like a super chat. Thank you so much. Oh, did you get a puppy donation? Don't blow your snoot on me. Good boys. Oh, thank you for the slobbers. Luckily, I'm already done touching the artwork. That's it. Good boys. Go lay down. Down. Today. It would be good. Good boy. Okay. All that mostly out of the way. There we go. So the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about tonight, first topic, 4 tips for more creative paintings. A common question I get is, how do you even come up with ideas for this stuff? Like, that you can't think of ideas, everything feels more boring. There are a lot of them. So first, take inspiration from your dreams. If you and this won't work for everybody, because not everybody has the super vivid dreams. I do. I have painted things that were from my dreams. This can work really well, but I recommend you keep a dream journal. If you're going to do that, have something, or even your phone, just something next to your bed that you can write down, jot that down really quick, because it is very common by the time you're completely all the way awake, you've probably forgotten a lot of your dreams. But that can give you some really bizarre, because if you're like me, there are some bizarre dreams, that can give you some ideas for creativity. And it's not like you have to paint the whole scene from your dream, but you can kind of build on that. So that is something you can incorporate into your dream, your work. But again, that's not going to fit everybody. The other 3 tips will. So the second tip When you're getting into surrealism and something that's just super creative feeling, combine unexpected elements, things that don't go together. And I've mentioned this before. You can write down a bunch of different words, different objects, different animals, plants, just different things. Throw them into a bag or a mason jar or something and pull out 3 of those. They don't have to have anything to do with each other. It could be a fork, a hairbrush, and I don't know, a porcupine. How are you going to make those things fit into one painting? Or a river, an underwater scene with a porcupine and a fork. Make that happen. You can get just by pulling these random things. I mean, that is something that is really the core of a lot of surrealism. It's just weird crap thrown together that makes no sense, but you as an artist are going to figure out how to make that work. And it's really just a collage of weird things. Like, simplify the concept of these crazy ideas. Because I know I've done that. I see these video or paintings that people have done, and it's like, how did you even think of that's incredible? But if you look at it more as abstract, just a collage of things, that can make it a lot easier to come up with some of these things. But the core of the idea there is just put things together that don't fit together. Third, use symbolism in your work, symbolisms and metaphors. Now, this can get complicated. Like I tried this once and I went back and I'm like, well, historically, a candle could symbolize this and that. Who cares? It doesn't matter what historically something symbolized. What does something symbolize to you? Do you see a candle and it makes you think of a certain holiday? It makes you think of a certain feeling, a certain mood. If you see something, like, it doesn't have to be a historically accurate level of symbolism. It can be that, but it could also just be, I want to create something with a specific mood. What are things I think of with that mood? What are things, maybe it's a smell. A certain smell always makes you remember. We know how that you get, my brain just shut down, but we know how smells will make us associate something from the past. You can build on that idea. How do you paint a smell? I don't know. How would you display a smell visually? Like, these are the things you want to think of, these weird, crazy things that don't have to make sense. But symbolism and metaphors are a really cool thing to start building on, especially if you're wanting to just say something with the art. You're in a mood, a specific mood, good, bad, whatever, and you want to express that. Trying to think of elements that just bring that feeling out more to you. The last tip is play with scale and perspective. One of the things that gives you that weird kind of creepy feeling, not that surrealism has to be creepy, but one of the things that will give you that weird feeling of, wow, that's odd, that's different, is the scale and perspective being off. And now this is an important thing, because I've seen people do this where their scale and perspective was off, but it didn't look intentional enough. If you are going to do that, you want it intentional, not slightly off because you didn't draw very well. There is a very big difference between, I just didn't do a good job drawing this, and I intentionally made this building curve. Like, you want to be intentional when you're going to do something like that, because it is very easy to be too subtle, and it just looks like you didn't do a good job. So again, if you're going to go with the perspective and the size thing, make it obvious. But one of the things that I like so much about doing things like this, where you're combining, so we go back to tip 2, combining unexpected elements. I did a painting of a flamingo, and he has an octopus. So the flamingo standing in water, an octopus is coming out and kind of wrapped around his legs, and there's moths there. It was really cool watching people's reaction to that painting at a show recently. I had one couple, they bought it, and he was telling me, the first thing he said when he walked up, I don't know if that's really cool or really creepy. I'm like, I won. I just won. That was my goal there. Like, I love that concept of somebody looks at it and they have a feeling about it, or confusion. Creating confusion in their emotions. That's great too. That you know you did something pretty creative when you can cause confusion for somebody like that. But that combination of things that didn't go together, that made the person go, like, stop and really look, like, wait, what's going on here? What's happening? So those are just fun ways that you can come up with more creative paintings that are not very difficult. The next thing that I wanted, and keep writing if you've got questions, go ahead and keep sending them in. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, every artist feels like this. We often get discouraged when things aren't going well, or we feel we aren't good enough. You're not making fast enough progress for what you're trying to accomplish. That is something that we all feel. We all go through those stages. You want to remember, art, for one thing, it's subjective. just because you didn't like a painting you did does not mean somebody else is not going to love it and think it's the best thing they've ever seen. That one was always something that surprised me. Going to art shows. I remember doing a show over at the Pomona Art Gallery or Arts Colony in Pomona, California. They used to have a Saturday, like every third Saturday or something like that, show. And I had a ton, I would just bring every painting I had available. I had a ton of those out on display. I had a woman come up and she started crying looking at this painting, which was funny because she didn't even buy it. I guess she wasn't that moved, but she was crying. I mean, this painting just spoke to her and she was so moved by it. And I thought it was so odd because it was probably the worst painting, in my opinion, that I brought. I was not proud of it. It was one of those, I mean, I made some mistakes I'm not going to make again type paintings. That's what she was drawn to. When you create something and you're just like, oh, it wasn't as good, don't be discouraged. Don't throw it away. It's a part of the learning process, but you also may have someone who thinks it's the best thing they ever saw. It may take you 10 years to find that person, but that may be the painting that just speaks to somebody. So that's the other thing of don't be discouraged just because it wasn't your favorite. Mastering your skill, that is a progress. Getting really good at your art, that is a progress. We often think that we're not learning fast enough, we're not progressing fast enough, because we'll see another artist that seems to pop out of nowhere and they're just instantly, from day one, everything's good. What you don't realize, what you didn't see with those artists is they had likely been painting and drawing for years behind the scenes. They had been, I mean, that's what they do at home. Instead of watching TV or while they're watching TV, they're at home drawing constantly. Many, many artists have been, I know probably a lot of you guys as well, have been drawing most of your lives. So these artists that suddenly appear like they're just instantly good, that's not how it worked. We all start at zero as artists. Every single one of us start at zero. So don't be discouraged when someone appears to just suddenly be amazing. I promise you, they've been drawing and painting for quite some time. When you get frustrated with your paintings not being good enough, failure is just a part of the process. That is a part of the growth that you're going to experience as an artist. If you are not failing at something, or if you are not making mistakes and you just are like, I wish I hadn't done that, you learned something from that. That's amazing. Now figure out how to fix it. Don't throw it away. Figure out how to fix it. This is what's going to move you forward in your work. How you respond to these failures, how you respond to these frustrations. That's what's going to make a difference of somebody who gets really, really good with their work versus somebody who gives up very early. And that's one of the things that if you've been on my email list, I wrote about this earlier, but I hate seeing artists give up because they feel like they're not good. They keep messing up. You're learning. That is a part of learning, and it's something that we have all been through. Let me know in the comments, just to encourage other artists, so not really letting me know, let everybody know. Have you felt this way? Have you felt like I'm not good enough, I can't do this, but you moved past it, you fought through it? I guarantee you every single artist, unless they're like a sociopath, every single artist has had that moment where we feel it's not good enough and we're frustrated, we wish it was better. That is a normal part. That is a normal feeling as an artist. It doesn't mean you're not good. It doesn't mean you're not going to be better. It means usually you're kind of at that brink of, I realize I want to improve even more. And that's usually kind of that edge where you just take another step forward and start moving forward, start progressing more when you realize I want to be better. So it's not even a bad thing that when that happens, that may be the moment that you start making a change, when you start like opening your eyes to other possibilities with your work. Oops, I have notes. That's what I keep looking at. The big thing, keep practicing, keep taking risks, keep making mistakes. That is such an important part of your growth, and do not be discouraged when things did not go right in your work. It's normal. It happens to all of us. And throughout your entire career, it's not even like you're going to hit a point where everything's always perfect. How many times you watch me paint and draw and I'm like, no, that didn't go well. And those of you on Patreon see me do this a lot. I will leave in where I royally screwed something up and hated it, because that's a normal part of the process. We all do it. I'm not going to get frustrated other than I wasted some time. I'm going to figure out how to fix it, and I'm going to finish the painting. So don't be discouraged. Don't give up on any of the pieces that you've been working on. Finish them all. Okay, let's go through some of your questions now. Okay. Oops. First question is from Mona Lisa, who said, which set of pen pastels would be best for wildlife, landscapes, and marine life? So I have the set of, I think, 20, and it works for everything. Like, I haven't had a single time of everything I've painted with these, and I've done seascapes, think I did CC, landscapes, clouds. I've done animals. I did a polar bear in teal water. Like, you can mix from everything. So mine is just that basic set of 20, really has been everything I needed. I haven't felt the need to add on to that, which is pretty cool. So any of those. I mean, I know they have a lot of the different kits, but honestly, that set of 20, everything I've needed has been in that just basic set. Let's see. Fly Me to the Moon said, for acrylic painting, what varnish do you recommend and why? So I like the Liquitex High Gloss. I think it takes the paint, so Liquitex basics are what I paint with acrylics. When those dry, they dry very matte, which mostly matte. Semi. Not matte, not as matte as like colored pencil or Inktense is really matte, but fairly matte. They are kind of dull looking. I put a varnish, a gloss varnish on it. It looks just like it did when it was wet. It brings that richness, that depth of the color right back. So that one, I personally really like the high gloss, and I don't like the sprays as much. So I was not experimenting, that's just how I did it for a long time. I would put a light, kind of a matte varnish, words are hard. I'd put a matte varnish really lightly on it, and this would keep me from smudging when I used a sponge brush and sponge. I've got lots of short videos up showing you how I varnish, and I use a sponge brush to, no, I don't have one over here, to apply the gloss varnish, but it gives me a more even finish. And I don't care if I've got some brush strokes with the sponge thing. I actually think that looks cool, but that was giving me good results in keeping me from smudging things, because sometimes if you've got a really light background and you have something dark, that when you put the gloss varnish, it will almost reactivate it and leave a little bit of a smudge onto the white. So that is the only time, if I've got a white background, which I don't do often because those are a pain to work with. It's so hard to not have mistakes there. But if I've got a really white background, then I'm going to do a spray varnish, a matte spray varnish, let it dry, and then go on top of that with the gloss varnish. The problem is if you go too heavy with that matte varnish, it makes it so the gloss varnish doesn't stick really well. So it's this balancing act of just challenges. So personally, normally, like the videos you see when I do the YouTube, I have a lot of them on the shorts, where it's just straight poured the varnish on, spread it out with the sponge brush, let it dry, and then repeated that process. Two or three coats is normally what I do. But like I said, it can smudge over a light area. When your painting is just like normal, like this giraffe that I just did, let's pretend he was an acrylic painting. If I were to put a gloss varnish over him, he is not, like nothing would have, this is not a good example. Somebody is going to misunderstand this. Actually, let's use this as an example instead. So this painting from a couple of weeks ago, that varnish on there, I can put directly, you can see how glossy it is. I can put that directly on and brush it, and you don't see any smudges because it would be so minor, it would just blend in with what's already there. The only way that that varnish ends up showing that that's been a problem where I had a smudge is on a white background, and the dark smudged over that. But if it's any other color canvas, I've not had a problem where that smudge just putting the gloss varnish straight on it. I hope that makes sense. I feel like it doesn't, and I need to make a more complete video about it. Eric said, awesome work, thank you. Wondering how long a piece of glassine lasts on an artwork. I've used very crumbly ones. They can't last anymore. Work mainly on graphite and colored pencil. Thanks. I'll reuse them until they start getting dirty, but I get a roll of it. Sometimes I'll put a new one each piece. Sometimes I don't. I mean, if it starts getting wrinkly and if it doesn't look brand new, I'm going to get a new one. It's not super expensive, and you get a roll, like a whole roll. So I have a ton of it. But if it's wrinkly, I'm not going to use that. Mostly because those harsher edges in the wrinkles, I worry about that catching something and smudging something in its own, which defeats the purpose of, well, part of the purpose of the glassine. Aline said, would pastel pencils work with colored pencils? Some are oil-based. Thanks and appreciate all you do for us to keep learning and creating. I am not a pastel pencil expert. I hate the feel of pastels on my hands. So I use pan pastels, but I don't use pastel pencils. Jason Morgan would be a better person to ask on that one. I don't know why you would combine the two though. Pastels don't stick well. Pan pastels do, but normal like pastel pencils do not stick to colored pencils. So I can't think of a situation where I would want to combine the two. Like if I'm comfortable using pastels, I'm just going to use pastels. Like I don't know why I would introduce colored pencil into that mix. I cannot. Maybe there's a situation I'm not thinking of, but I can't think of a reason why that would be a mixed media I would want to do, unless it was simply pastel pencils for the base, because it does blend out fast like pan pastels. Like let's say you were using those as your base for like what I did with the Giraffe, then yeah, that would be fine. But if I've already put colored pencil down, the regular pastel pencils are not going to stick real well to it. It's not going to work super well. So I did take it back. I did come up with a reason where I could see that being beneficial if you were using that instead of pan pastels. Yes, you could do your base layer with pastel, put colored pencil on top. That would work. Alice said, how do I upgrade to the next tier in Patreon? Should I do it at the end of the month or the beginning of next month so I don't get charged twice for my current tier and the upgrade? Yes, wait for the beginning of the month because we're at the 21st. So yes, I would definitely wait until the beginning of the month. I won't have changed prices by then, so you're safe. How do you change it? You should be able to go, I only know on a PC because I don't really use their app much. Like ever. I haven't updated that app in like a year because I don't even use it. But on the PC, like you've got in the upper right-hand corner, your little icon, your avatar or whatever, click on that. You'll have a drop down menu and you can go to your settings and you'll be able to just follow. There will be prompts telling you how to do that. The other thing would be if you just do a Google, how do I change my Patreon tier? There will be a step-by-step from Patreon telling you how to do that. Or if you can't find that, let me know and I'll find it for you. Let's see. Lydia said, does using the pan pastels as an underpainting and coming on top with polychromos affect the light pass rating of the overall piece? I've been wanting to try it, but was concerned about this. No, because all of the colors I'm using are light fast. Now, let's say I chose a pan pastel color that was not light fast, then yeah, that's going to be an issue, but they're all light fast, so not an issue at all. Brittany Daniels said, how do you deal with people who bully you about the artwork you create, meaning they bully your artwork? People are weird. And I know that. And I understand that. And I'm old enough to know people are weird. And I don't care what they think. Like, if they're the type of person that feels the need to criticize me when I didn't ask, like, it's one thing if I come to you and say, hey, what do you think about this? What would you change? Whatever. That's one thing. I have very few people who I do that with. If somebody is just being rude, I actually had some weird comments on some of my videos today. Like one lady was telling me that Tiger's eyes were cross-eyed. They're not. Paintings on my wall right now. They're not. She told me something else I had done was, it was an acrylic pour for a background and she wanted to know why I would do that. It was ugly. Because I like it. I mean, you get that. Now, on the flip side, I will say this specific lady, based on her other comments, seems to really like my videos. She just says what she thinks. So we'll give her a freebie because she seems very nice otherwise. She's not being, I don't think she means to be rude. But I mean, stuff like that does happen fairly often. And most of the time, I just roll my eyes. And especially in her case, because she's otherwise being nice and she's left a lot of comments today and yesterday. So it's like, nah, you get a free pass. But I've had people that said really weird, like, I have one of my favorites. I will get people who act like they know me really well. And I've always, like, there are a few, people are going to think I'm talking about them when I'm not, because I know the person I'm talking about does not watch. But I know that for a fact. But anyway, they'll leave weird comments about how much I've improved because my old stuff wasn't very good. And it like brought up a specific painting. And I was like, except that's one of my favorite paintings. So I just dismiss them. Like, I don't take it seriously. And the other thing that you can do in a lot of these people's comments, like the one I just talked about that kind of was like, oh, you've improved a lot, your work's good now, but it wasn't before type thing, speaking about a very specific painting. I've seen this person's work. This is not anybody I would be taking like, the people who usually are going to tear down your work are not people you would care. Like, if you're able to, on Facebook, on Instagram and stuff like that, you're generally able to go and look at the work that they're producing. But on YouTube, I can't always see. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't find, like, if they have a channel where they're posting. More often than not, when somebody is being critical, they're terrible at it. They're not good at art. Does that mean they could be good? Sure. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, be wary of who you're taking advice from, who you're taking things personally from that say rude things to you, because the majority of the people who are going around telling somebody else their art is good, wasn't good, or isn't good, whatever, there are people who are, I mean, I don't want to say jealous because it makes it sound like I have a big head, but I've seen their work and it's like, I'm not sure who you think you're judging right now. That is a very, very common thing. And the reason I don't like to talk bad about people like that, it's just that I do think it's important for you guys to hear, because the majority of the people who are going to take the time to criticize you are not the people you want to take advice from. The people who are generally good at art, they're too busy to run around telling everybody else that they need to improve. They're not usually the people who are going to random people on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook and saying, hey, this is ugly, I don't like what you did. They don't have time for that. Also, good artists are going to be confident enough in themselves that they don't feel the need to build themselves up by tearing somebody else down. I can't even imagine being in a place mentally where you want someone to feel badly about the work that they created. That's like, that alone, something's wrong with that person, not you and your work. We have a tendency to assume that somebody who's criticizing us, we read things and our natural tendency is to think they're like me. We read things as though that's us writing. So like they've done studies where, let's say you've had a horrible day or in a terrible mood, you're mad at everybody, you're just on the defensive about everything. You read a comment from somebody on that day, you're going to think that person's attacking you when no insult was intended. That's just the mindset you're currently in. So on the flip side, let's say somebody is picking on you on your art, you're going to have a tendency to feel like they are like you, like they're in the same mindset as you. It's a weird, I'm not explaining that well. Like there are studies, it's actually very interesting, but when we read things, we assume that person is like us, when the majority of the time, when you've got somebody who feels the necessity to criticize you and criticize your artwork, when you didn't ask, you're just like, hey, I'm proud of something I created, and they're like, this is why you shouldn't be proud. There's something wrong with them, not with you. And there are a lot of very disturbed people on the internet. And we tend to think that they're not. Like, you're like, I'm normal, I'm happy, I'm not disturbed, so they must not be either. They must be fine. No, they're probably, like, that's not a normal behavior for somebody to run around trying to tear somebody else down. When somebody does that, it's a them thing, not a you thing. Because like I said, the artist who you would respect, the artist who you do want to take advice from, I promise you, they are not going out there telling you your work is bad or bullying you about it. Anyone who behaves that way, their art's bad. It only comes from people. There was one girl, I finally blocked her on Instagram. This was years ago, so I feel comfortable talking about that because I know she can't follow me because I blocked her. She kept commenting on everything I did, why she didn't like it. And it was getting really bizarre. I'm like, I went and looked up her work. She thought she was doing fan art of YouTubers. And it was the most painfully bad portraits. I mean, I'm like, did you do it with your feet? That is, how are you painting this poorly? And you're going to other YouTubers, you're going to other artists and telling them why their artwork is terrible. Like, she was genuinely saying, this is ugly, I hate what you did here. I mean, she was really nasty about it. And it was really, that's typically the person who's bullying you. It's not, people who are good don't do that. So those are just things to keep in mind with your artwork. Don't let somebody else tear you down. Okay. Recon Blue said, since I don't have pan pastels, can I get the same effect with watercolors? Absolutely. Not exactly the same. I can make it look the same. Yes, watercolor as a base is wonderful to put down under colored pencil. But make sure you're done completely with your watercolor before you start with colored pencil, because once you start putting your colored pencil down, you can't come back with watercolor on top because that isn't compatible. You want to put all your water-soluble medium down first and then colored pencils on top, and it works great. But I would use a hot pressed watercolor paper in that case. Not the Inktense MeWe is a little bit too absorbent. It would not be my choice for watercolor. Could it work? Yeah, probably. Oh, do I need this email? Let me see really quick because I may want to tell you guys if this is true. Okay, so I'm supposed to be on the Aquatic Morning Show. It was supposed to be last Friday. They had a huge power outage with the storms. She's in Louisiana. It got postponed to today or to this Friday, but we've got to push it back because she still doesn't have power. She's not sure when, or no, she has power. She doesn't have internet, so she's not sure when that's going to be. So for those of you who are waiting for that, so am I. I'll let you know. But that also means I don't have to wake up early Friday, which is a win. Okay. Susan said, how do you get the brightness? No, I did not read that right. How do you get the brightest color in pencil, such as yellow? Thank you. If you have, okay, so I'm not going to use, let's say you want a really bright yellow. I'm probably not going to work on colored paper like I did with the Giraffe. I'm probably going to work on white paper because that is going to give you the brightest yellow is going up against white. If you put yellow is typically, and this is going to be true not just with your colored pencil, but it's true with your acrylic paintings too, or oil paintings. yellow tends to be very, very translucent. So if I was painting with acrylics, I would have to paint something white. Let's say I painted an ocean scene and I want a yellow fish on there. I've got to paint the yellow fish white first, let it dry. Now I can put the yellow on top and the yellow is super bright. Colored pencil is the same. I want to make sure anywhere that needs to be super bright yellow, protect the white of the paper. The yellow goes down first and then any shading on top of that. But if I try to put yellow, bright yellow on top of green, on top of blue, it's not going to come out bright yellow. It's just too translucent. So your really bright colors have to go right on the white of the paper. So you just want to plan around that as you're planning what to work on next on your piece and what color to lay down first. Aline said, which eraser would you recommend for colored pencils for the, oh no, what did I do moments? Thanks. That is an easy one. Do I have it? Do I have one over here? It is the Faber-Castell Perfection Eraser. I do. This is my absolute must have for colored pencil. It has a little brush on the end of it. It is kind of like an ink eraser. And it, obviously you can see it comes to a point. For colored pencil, this is amazing. I have videos. I'll have a card pop up if I edit this down. I don't know if I will. You can do a Google YouTube search though. I do have videos showing you the best erasers. Like type in Lachri and best erasers for colored pencil, or I think that's what it's under. I don't know. But if I erase with this, it's never going to bring the paper back to white. But what it will do is lift enough of the pencil that I can put other colors back on top. So I hit that point where it's like nothing is going down. Or let's say I filled something in with brown and I was like, crap, that should have been red. I can lift so much of the brown that the red shows up really well if I use this eraser. And it doesn't, like a lot of erasers, your normal erasers would tend to kind of gum up on colored pencil, the way the wax and the oil and all that works. That does not happen with that one. Like I said, it's more like an ink eraser and it's amazing. Amazing. Like absolute, you've got to get one of those. Alice said, how to ship an unframed painting. I read backing paper wrap is not safe for it sticks to the surface if the temperature is hot during shipping. That I could use watercolor paper instead. It doesn't trap moisture. An unframed painting, like let's say it's an oil or acrylic painting, I'm going to wrap that in glassine. Glassine doesn't stick. That's going to be archival. That is your best bet for wrapping something. I always do that, and then I would put like a butcher paper or something over it. But I don't want the butcher paper or any of that anyway directly on the artwork because that is not going to be archival, whereas the glassine is. So I just wrap it with glassine, then your butcher paper or whatever you want to go with, or most of the time, I think most of you who've gotten paintings from me, you probably just got the glassine and then cardboard, protecting it all the way around, and then that in the box. So that is what I do. Depends on the size, but always with the glassine. Lydia said, what are you showing your work at as a show, a local market, or do you take painting works that are all the same thing, i.e. the sea, or do you take other work like some still life pieces? So the only show that I personally do anymore is Aquashella. I do that once a year, and that's a marine, well, it's an aquatic, not marine. So anything freshwater, saltwater, I'll bring. But also you can bring other things that are, like if I do bring some cards and some postcards that are other things like leopards and owls and such. And occasionally somebody wants that. But for the most part, the crowd is there to see marine or fresh or saltwater stuff. Sorry, there is something on my eye and it itches. There we go. So that seems to be what sells more, like bringing a leopard. Randomly, someone might want to buy that, but not a lot. If you're going to a specialty type show, staying with it, the theme is usually like you've only got so much table or wall space. I don't want to fill that. If I've got enough marine work, I don't want to be filling that space with something people are not there for, if that makes sense. But it depends on the show, where you're at. I mean, let's say it's just a random art show. Let's say I'm down at Huntington Beach, Southern California. It's just a random art show. Have fun dodging those needles on the beach. It's gone bad down there. But anyway, let's say it was a nicer beach. Laguna, that's better. You're down at Laguna Beach. I bring my ocean stuff, but I would probably bring a few other things as well, other nature type things, because it's not just marine life. If I've got the space, I might bring other things in, but if I'm out of space, I'm gonna bring in as much as what I think the audience is there for. Are they there for marine stuff? Then that's what I want to bring. Are they there? Is it if I'm like at a rodeo doing a show, I set up a booth at a rodeo. I want to bring my Western, anything that's Western, bulls, horses, chickens, farm animals, things that people are more likely going to be interested in. Pet portraits would work as well because most of them are also going to have cats and dogs, so that could work. Maybe owls. Stuff like that can also work with their decor, that kind of rustic-y type look. A lot of people who have horses that I've known of had a very rustic theme in their home. Not everyone. Some will have farmhouse. Anyway, think of who your audience is going to be at that show. If it's going to be something that's super mixed, it's just any art, bring whatever you have. But if it's a specialty type thing, I want to focus in on what the people who are at that show are most likely going to be interested in. Again, you're limited on space. But if you don't have, let's say I'm doing a rodeo and I don't have a lot of horses, I'm probably just going to make prints of what I have. And you like try to get, well, in my case, I would just be trying to get commissions for more pet portraits. So I would bring like big examples of past, I'd have prints made, just one print of each so I could show people of past paintings so they could see what I could do would probably be my goal in that situation because I don't have a lot of finished horse paintings to sell. So it depends on what it is, I guess. I don't know that that was helpful. Marie said, I'm a new patron. I received the verification email, but there is no link to verify it. Help, please. What am I missing? I can't look into that right now, Marie. Okay, email me, lisa@lachri.com. If you can't message me, you should be able to message me through Patreon. You should be able to go to patreon.com/lachri, see if you can log into your account and what happens. That should happen. Check your spam folder. Like I can't check from here, so I can't help much more than that, but check your spam folder. Let's see. Lady B Miniatures and Art said, hi Lisa, I heard that Inktense isn't light fast when made into washes. Is there any way to stop them from fading? Inktense isn't light fast no matter what you do with it. I mean, if it's not light fast, it's not light fast. It's not gonna, like, okay, let's back that up. We weren't sure in the beginning because I asked Derwent, when we add water, is it getting less light fast? And they weren't sure. Turns out, yeah, no, they're fine. Like if it's a light fast color, you're fine. Use distilled water. Do not use tap water. And I recommend this on any medium where you're working on paper and using water. So water-soluble graphite, watercolor pencils, Inktense, distilled water. There is so much crap and so many chemicals in our tap drinking water. I mean, I drink it. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying, I mean, I'm kind of opposed to it. I don't really need that much fluoride in my diet, but neither does your artwork. We don't want those chemicals mixed in. You want to go with distilled water in that case. But yeah, a lot of whatever the light fast ratings are from Derwent, I trust that, whether you add water or not. It's the pigment that is that going to hold when exposed to light. Some of the colors are. A lot of them are not. So when I do Inktense things, I just don't sell the work. With few exceptions, like I did the Dolphin Soul. She's very well aware of the light fast ratings of Inktense, knows to frame it behind UV protecting glass to get it to last its longest. But she was aware of the potential light fast issues with that, so that's why we went ahead and sold that one. But normally I just don't sell my Inktense. I make prints of them. They photograph beautifully. It's a very fast medium to work in, so I love working in them for prints, not for selling originals. That's just what I'm comfortable with. But no, adding water is not going to make a difference one way or another if you're using distilled water and an actual archival paper. Okay, let's see. Oh, good. Marie got her verification email. Yay! I think I was rambling and that message had already come through. Yeah, it did. Let's see. I think that's it. You can still bid. You've got 7 minutes to bid on the Giraffe. If you want to own him, I will show you. This is pretty accurate, so it's not going to be a huge difference over here. But the color a little bit better. Oh yeah, he does look better when he's not all washed out under that light. How cute is he? And he will come in a black matte. He's a 5x7, so the overall size will be an 8x10. Okay, and I'm only able to ship that within the US. If you wanted to bid and you're outside of the US, but you have a friend in the US who would be willing to forward it to wherever you're at, you can go that route. International shipping is just not, I just don't want to be responsible. I've had things when actually the story behind why I don't do, like I really avoid international shipping. I have had, besides the Patreon, your postcards, you get all of those. But if those get lost, I'll send another one. It's fine. But it can take like 6 weeks for you to get stuff from me. And I used to sell prints and I would ship them overseas. And there was a lady in the UK, she bought, it was a Whippet print. And I let her know she wanted to order it. And I was already getting to the point where I'm like, everything was getting held up in customs for so long for me for some reason that I was like, I don't really want to ship overseas. And I explained to her, it'll take 6 weeks usually in order for the work to get to you. And she understood. She was fine, no problem. About 3 weeks go by. She contacts me wanting to know where it's at, and I explained again. I told you, you accepted the fact that it was going to take 6 weeks. So she contacted PayPal and tried to force a refund. All I had to do is tell PayPal, custom order. Didn't matter. You can't. That's one thing with PayPal. If you're doing custom work, they can't get a refund on anything custom or like digital services, that sort of thing. You can't get a refund on. So I just had to say that to block it, because I knew the print was going there. It's like, you're just trying to get a free print at this point, or being ridiculous. I don't know what her problem was, but she kept bugging me on and on, and she was getting nasty. I mean, her emails were getting nasty, insisting I never sent it, because when I send something internationally, I don't have an actual tracking number. I have like the tracking number I get a number that I can give them that I gave it to the post office, but once it leaves our country, it's out of, I have no, there's no way for me to track this. So this is why I don't do international, unless I want to ship UPS or FedEx, and the shipping cost will be more than the artwork. Like, it's not even worth the trouble. So that's why I avoid the shipping stuff overseas, because I don't want to deal with somebody pulling that on me again. Not that you guys would. I mean, this was way before YouTube and all of that. But it was just such a hassle. And it's like, yeah, no, I don't think I want to play those games anymore. So, I mean, I do occasionally ship things internationally when someone requests it. But that's why for these live streams, like, they're just not, yeah. Okay. Oh, looks like a bunch of you made it into our Discord over on Patreon. Yay! I'm not hitting right buttons. We've got 4 more minutes if you guys have any questions. Actually, let me look through here. Starving Artist Collective said, book and movie favorites this month. I'm not loving any of the books I've been reading so far. I've been reading Graveyard Queen. I forget who it's by, but Christine Vam narrates it. If it weren't for my favorite narrator, I don't think I'd like these books. Like, I think if I was reading on my own, I would have gotten bored by now. It's one of those, I hate when books, like, the story is cool. It's, you know, your supernatural stuff and the mystery, which I love that sort of thing. So they're fun, but the pacing is like, you have to hear too much. Like, something happens and you were there for it. You know what happened, but then the main character's like, gonna think about it. And every time something happens, she thinks about it. You have to go through her processing of the situation, and it's definitely, I'm on book 6, I think, and I liked it better in the beginning, but it's getting too much where I'm like, is the author just trying to drag things out? Or maybe it started that way and it wasn't annoying in the beginning, but now it's like so much where I'm just like, ugh. I was there. I know what happened in this situation. I know it's pretty obvious what she would be thinking about. Like, I don't need to know every single element. Like, why are we rehashing the same thing again when it just happened? Like, I didn't forget. I was there. It's a bit annoying. But again, it's my favorite narrator, and so it's kind of one of those things I'll put on in the background and listen to. So it's okay. I got them on sale, so that's another bonus, is that I did not pay much for these books. So if I would have, I think they were like $4 each. So definitely worth it, but not my favorite. And then movies, my husband and I have been watching. What did we watch? We finished 1899, I think. Was that Netflix? And it was so good. And it held my attention the whole time. It's kind of your weird, I don't even know how you would describe it. It was just this weird, surreal thing going on. They're on a boat and there's this mystery, and just, it was good. And then you get to the end and it leaves you with the most massive, massive cliffhanger. They didn't renew the season. Like, I'm so sick of watching things on Netflix for them to just not renew it. And it was good. The acting, the writing. Like, normally I'm sitting there watching something going, oh, no one would say that. No one would do that. I didn't do that in this. It was so good. So if you watch it, but it's good, but it's going to leave you with a cliff. You're left with more answers. So you got to the end of this huge mystery and you kind of get answers, but the major answers are like, huh, you just made it worse. Like, it was very unsatisfying. I guess that's what I mean to say. Then we watched, I want to say it was Terror of the Deep. We just finished it last night. Was that what it was called? And it was so good. Wait, what was it? There was maybe that wasn't it. Maybe I'm thinking of a different name. No, that's not it. So it was set in, like, maybe one of you guys will remember or know what it was. It was on AMC originally, but it was set back in 18. It's based off a true story, but obviously they took it a direction that was not a true story because they don't know what happened to these two boats. They were sent in like 1945, right around there. They were, or I'm sorry, 1845. They were sent from the UK. They were trying to find passage above Canada and like through over to the Pacific Ocean, and their boats got lost. And they actually just within the last like 10-15 years found those two boats. They did discover them again, but no one ever knew what happened to them. And so this movie is like what happened, but not really, because they don't know what happened. It was so good. It wasn't a movie, it was a show. It was so good. Weird ending, but oh, it's not your, like, I usually like really, really happy endings. This is, I mean, we already know that they were lost at sea, so you know it's not a happy ending. Dear God, it was good. The acting, the writing, the everything was so good. There were so many just like, I can't watch moments, but it was like, my husband and I both like had fun with that one. Again, a weird ending, but it was just so, and that one was complete. So yeah, those are the shows that I have been watching lately. I think, are we caught up? I get to go eat my Chipotle. Yeah, Art of Raven D said there's actually people who do a great job painting and drawing with their feet. No, you're not wrong. I should go back to saying painting with your knees because that seems harder. You are right. I've seen it and it's incredible. You are right. Fly Me to the Moon said, maybe like some folks are tone deaf to music, some are tone deaf to art. Possibly. Or they're just rude. I don't know. Like, I feel like the one girl that I finally blocked on Instagram a few years back, like, she must have known her work was not good. And that was the weird thing, listening to her talk about it. She was going on and on about how great it was. But then she's going to other artists and tearing them down. And I'm like, who does that? That is just bizarre. But like I said, every single time somebody has criticized me and they were just mean and super rude, when I've been able to find their work, you look at it, you're like, oh, that was rich. Like it certainly makes you feel better because you look at it, you're like, yeah, there's something wrong with that person. It's not me, it's them, for sure, every time. Oops. I think we're caught up and we can wrap this up. Yep. Auction bids. Oh, did we win? Yes, we did have a winner for the auction. Who won? Aline, congratulations. Yay. That's fun. It's always fun no matter what. But I guess because I already know you guys here on the live stream, I get super excited when somebody buys my art and I recognize their name. But I guess during the live stream, I recognize all your names anyway, so it's always fun. But I always get excited for you guys, so yay! And I think we're good. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to our moderators, Nick. We've got. Has Clarifying Art been here? I don't even know. Either way, her link is in the channel description. She has cool videos. We've got, Tessa. I've got to say it quietly because I think they know Tessa's name. Oh no, they don't. You boys want a super chat from Tessa? Oh, yes, we do. Thank you so much, Tessa. That is a good way to wrap up the live stream. Do you get a super chat? Okay, I'm going to give you a big piece so I can throw this bag away because we're going to get new ones this weekend. Thank you very much, Tessa. You got a big treat from Tessa. Like, that's a lot to chew, huh? Okay, that's it. Go lay down. Go lay down. Say thank you to Tessa. Go on. Down, down, down. Go on, bad cow. Blocking traffic over there. Thank you, Tessa. Yes, join our art group over on MeWe. Nick's got the description. It's also in the video description. Or he's got the link. Words are hard. Thank you to our mods. Links to their channels are all in the video description. I'm not sure what we're doing next week. I'm still going through the list of suggestions you guys had. And I think we're good. I think that's it. I will see you guys next week with something. And all this week over on YouTube. Well, here on YouTube, I should say.